Swaran Singh, former foreign affairs expert and from the School of International Studies in JNU. Thank you very much. I would like to start with Swaran Singh. According to you, big
Yes, of
takeaways?
course.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that as Ambassador Reva Ganguly Das has just mentioned, a lot of things in a very limited period of time were able to be clinched. I think is a kind of a warmth that is visible between India and ASEAN, growing closer ties, whether it is economic relationship or it is defense cooperation, maritime security cooperation, and that kind of hectic sort of visit perhaps adds to the enthusiasm and warmth that will happen at the G20, because the host president in Jakarta, Joko Widodo, will also be joining the G20 summit meeting. So the kind of parlays that happened with several leaders there, I think
Yes.
will have that warmth also visible in G20 summit meeting. But particularly, I think if you compare with India's growing image as a global leader, in the same meeting, we saw that President Xi Jinping was not there, President Joe Biden wasn't there, and despite being a host with so much buzz in New Delhi because of this hosting of G20, Indian Prime Minister still chose to
Yes.
take a short visit. Is a reflection of India on the move in that sense, and the fact that we could have him enunciated 12-point cooperation plan. India-ASEAN summit meeting resulted in two specific agreements. Further taking forward things that are already happening in India-ASEAN relationship.
And also the continuity of the global south, India taking a leadership position there, and they've also pitched in on the collaboration on issues being faced by global south. Professor Singh.
Indeed, it's very interesting incident that after Indonesia last year, India this year, next year it is Brazil, and 2025 is South Africa. The presidency of G20 is going to stay with the nations of global south, whereas this whole expansion of G7 into ultimately emerging as G20 for initial years, I think, had kept that imprint of G7 as the kind of model as to how this G20 was working. And now with South, global South becoming center stage, all the issues of global South, perspective of global South, and Prime Minister himself put it in his op-ed today that it's no longer closed door meeting of select people.
Correct.
It's now a people's festival in that sense. So it's a very different transformation that G20 has seen, and I think India's imprint is very large and visible in that transformation.
India's imprint in the scheme of Indo-Pacific